Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Future Tech podcast series. This is a podcast series focused at STEM graduates, where myself, Charlie Sell, the MD of Arrows Group, are speaking to thought leaders, CEOs, founders of companies across both the technology spectrum and related governing bodies. Everyone who's actually got an interest in helping STEM graduates in their next career move. So really pleased to have Richard Pharro with me today, the CEO and founder of APMG International, one of the leading certification bodies across multiple disciplines, but a number of them focused at technology or the wider sort of space. So hi, Richard. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Charlie. Many thanks for inviting me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, great to have you on. And how are you today?
No, it's good. It's a bit cooler than it has been, and fortunately, no one around me has coronavirus. So at the moment, it's looking pretty good.
Absolutely. I think we take those as wins, don't we, at the moment?
We certainly do at the moment.
Yeah. So let's dive straight in. You know, a certification body, you know, that's which has grown phenomenally well over the years. I know I've even gone through the courses myself when studying Prince 2 and a number of them. So let's hear a bit about your story and how you got into it.
Well, I mean, I started life as a civil engineer.
Right.
So I started life working on construction projects in the UK and the Middle East. And my very first project was the underground railway tube line to Piccadilly, the Piccadilly extension to Heathrow Airport. So I spent 3 years walking underneath Heathrow Airport as part of the engineering team driving through that tunnel. And I then started to work on other projects in the UK, but the government changed its funding, so it withdrew funding from infrastructure projects. So in my early to mid-20s, I arrived in Dubai as part of the project team on Sharjah International Airport, which was fascinating because it's the first time I'd really understood a different culture and the importance of culture. I think that's a thing through my career, trying to understand and appreciate culture. So having spent a few years waking up every morning with the sun blazing through the window, thinking this is the life, someone said to me, if you really want to get on, you've got to go back to Europe, because otherwise you become an expat. Yeah. And you spend your time just going around on one project to another. And you know, when you're that age, you have ambitions about trying to change the world. So I came back. I joined the development team at London Docklands Development Corporation, where, depending on your point of view, we either revolutionized and dragged the docks into the 21st century, or we destroyed a way of life. And fortunately now you can see it, and I think it's made a great difference to London, certainly as a financial centre. At that time, I realised there was something called project management. I joined the Association for Project Management and became part of the board at a time when, like a lot of professional bodies in the early 90s, were losing money. So we then decided we would set up a trading company, and that was the APM Group.
Fantastic.
And we tried to get it off the ground. It was a struggle. And like most things, I think when I look back on my career, there are opportunities and something happened. So the government stopping funding for infrastructure drove me to the Middle East. Would I have gone to the Middle East if I could have worked on a road scheme or a bridge scheme in the UK? Probably not. So sitting in the office one day with not much to do as a startup, someone told me about this project management methodology called Prince 2. We, together with a couple of other organizations, bid for it. It took us 18 months to sign a deal with, at the time, CCTA, which was a part of government. And my business plan was that we would run 500 exams in a year. And people fell over laughing that, you know, I'd never get to 500. We actually got, I think at the peak, 125,000 people took Prince 2 exams in 21 different languages.
Wow.
So, and it was an opportunity, and it wasn't planned. I didn't graduate thinking I'm going to start an accreditation certification body. Sitting there one day, someone said to me, "Who assesses the assessor? Why aren't you guys regulated?" So we then went to the United Kingdom Accreditation Service, UCAS. Took us 2 years to get signed off by them, but then we established formally as a certification body. And from there, success breeds success. You know, other people know what you're doing. They come to you with other products. So most of our portfolio was around program management, project management, service management, change management, those traditional management things. Probably in the last 2 to 3 years, cybersecurity is a big thing for us. We do some work on accrediting training courses for the National Cybersecurity Centre. We have big data. We have RPA, robotics, automation. Yeah, these things are starting to appear. And I think what is interesting is the value now of these professional certifications that I wasn't aware when I started life as a civil engineer.
Yeah.
And that's what our business really is.
And well done you for evolving it to current trends as well, because I couldn't agree with you more around cyber, big data. You know, the world moves at such an incredible rate right now. So to evolve the products, where did you get your research, or what made you think about cyber and big data as more areas?
I think it's what you see going on around you. So, you know, you'd have had to be a hermit in the last 5 or 6 years not to understand cybersecurity.
Yeah.
But the challenge you have with this is, so what can you do? You know, so you could be truly, truly technical. So you could be somebody who can write really good programs, really good cybersecurity. But clearly to do that, you've got to be top of your game and you've got to continually evolve and develop your capability. So we started to look around, well, why can't we work with some organizations and roll our accreditation scheme out into cyber? Fortunately, at the time, CESG, which was part of government, let out a tender to accredit training courses. And we won that.
Right.
We didn't have a game plan. We didn't sit there and think, in 3 years, we ought to be in cyber. In 3 years, we ought to be in big data. I mean, I agree with you, things are moving rapidly, but you probably would say the same. Through my career, there's always been rapid change. Yeah. There's always been volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. It's just you don't recognize it at the time, maybe. Yeah. So, you know, someone will come to us as an expert in an area, and then you think, well, let's work with this organization. So we're working with, at the moment, with a large Dutch consultancy around big data, around Python programming. How can you start to bring that and provide a certification or qualification on the back of that? We just started work with a South African company in user experience. You know, now, if you asked me last year, would user experience be part of your portfolio? The answer would be no. Because unless you can find people who are in the field writing and thinking and developing this stuff, what have you got to go on? You know, you're only going to go on what's currently published.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of finding these people, cybersecurity, firm in the US, leaders in their field working with the US government standard NIST. So we're working with them.
Yeah, yeah, and well done, because it's, you know, as I say, you know, with this show focused on STEM graduates and thinking about what their careers look like when they leave university. And traditionally, as I think we all know, university gives us a broad learning of probably many disciplines. It's when you then leave that educational hub and you go into the real world, essentially, where you've got to think about, where do I want my career to go, and then what will make me separate from the thousands of other generalist graduates going into the market, thinking about extra accreditations and following a passion. Do you see that as a trend as well, that you know, when you're thinking about STEM graduates, what's the traditional path, in your opinion, from people leaving education to then getting real life accreditations that can really help them in a chosen career path?
Well, I think a lot of it clearly depends on what is the what is the subject you graduated in? So when I left university with a degree in civil engineering, I was not work ready.
Yeah.
You know, I spent 6 months being taught to draw by a grumpy draftsman. These were in the days before computer-aided drafting. And you realise that the world of work is very different from the world of study. So for me, it was about trying to work with other people and to learn from other people. I was very fortunate. I joined a firm of traditional consulting engineers. So they had an internal development and career path. You know, now we work with a number of organizations who have well-structured internal career paths to help people develop. I think the problem with it, though, is what do you specialize in? So as I said, my early life was in tunneling. But then the government stopped driving tunnels through London, so you could go to Hong Kong or somewhere like that. So my whole engineering career was this flip-flop between generalist and specialist.
Yeah.
When I'd specialized in something, the firm wanted a generalist. And when was I a generalist, the firm wanted a specialist. So looking back on it, you had to keep, you know, your core knowledge didn't go out of date, but you had to keep refreshing it, and you had to look for those opportunities. And I think my advice would be find an organization where you fit. And I think that's very, very difficult today with more home working, with more distributed working. How do you understand the ethos and the culture of an organization? Now, you know better than I do. That's very key, and you could probably help people understand that. But if you can get in there and you take the opportunity and you just think as the first few years of, instead of going deep in the technology, unless you really, really are cracking at the technology, think about a broad experience. Because, you know, what I realized was all the good engineers became managers. And the poor engineers in my day remained in engineering. But you look around now at some of the most successful companies in the world, they were built by engineers. You know, who would have thought an algorithm would lead to Google?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, if you are in that capability, then be an engineer. Be comfortable and happy with the engineer. But understand the things around it. You have to be able to collaborate. You have to be able to communicate. You have to be creative. Because otherwise, you know, you're not going to get on, because that's what people are looking for. But I suppose very early on, you need a track record.
Yeah.
You need to be able to have something that you stand out. I can deliver this. I have achieved this. And if that means you got to sort of just knuckle down and do some stuff, rather than chasing some dream or that, knuckle down and do it. Because once you've got that grounding, then I think that grounding sets you in good stead for whatever you want to go and do. I would never have thought I could set up a business. But on my way, when I was doing project management as a consultancy, people couldn't work out I was a civil engineer, because I had a broader understanding of it. So I could understand the lawyers, I could understand the accountants, I could understand the architects. And I do wonder whether the current graduates need that broad understanding, because in 10 years, you know, there wasn't a data scientist 10 years ago.
Yeah.
There wasn't a user experience engineer 10 years ago, but these exist and people do them. So they must be applying raw engineering knowledge in order to do that. And then they evolve that profession, they evolve that concept, and then more people can come in. So I think it's really just thinking about, it's always going to be a data-driven world. You know, that's going to be, if you can't understand and manipulate data, then I don't understand what you would be doing in an engineering, in a STEM environment.
Yeah.
As the robots come in and take away some of the routine work, you're going to need people who can understand technology and communicate it and explain it to other people who can't. So that ability to work as a team. Yeah, I had an amazing conversation today with somebody who works at a government department. They need a business case now to go into the office. A year ago, they needed a business case to work from home.
Yeah.
So working on your own, self-motivation, and being able to do that while you're part of a larger team, I think is going to become more and more key. With that basic engineering technical knowledge that you have, but how can you help people understand it and apply it in unusual places?
And again, that is really, really interesting, because I think you're absolutely spot on around, that understand the foundations, but learn how to be a generalist as well as a specialist. Learn how things work, whether that's, as you said, being able to engage with accountants, lawyers, and that can be even internally within a business, can't it? How do you engage with your finance team? How do you engage with your legal team? How do you engage with even the operations to get projects over the line, and to knuckle down and actually have a foundation in something first, I think is great advice, as it does.
But you have to be willing to pivot. If I think about my generation, my parents thought the bank manager was the ultimate person to get the job. You got a low-cost mortgage, you had career. There are no bank managers.
Yeah.
So unless the person who was aspiring bank manager was able to recognize that and pivot out of banking into something else, and I think that's a challenge. That if you've got that and you are willing to try different things, but for people to give you that choice, you need a track record. You need to get some success under your belt. And I do believe, because it is our business, professional certification says I've taken the trouble to go to learn that. I have a certificate, I have a digital badge. People can't take that away from you.
Yeah.
And it shows you have an interest in personal learning and development. I think, continuing professional development these days must be more important than it was probably in my day. And I think that's key. And at the same time, there's so much choice. It's available for free. When I was a young engineer, I had to go to meetings. I had to read the magazine. These days, there's more information on the internet than I could have ever dreamt of.
Yeah.
So you've got the choice to develop your ideas, your thoughts, your interests, and you never ever know when they're going to come in useful.
Yeah, this is fantastic advice and thought leadership, because it really is relevant to the current graduates, the Gen Z, as we call them, of looking at the career. And so I suppose, thinking of that and the last few words of wisdom, really, if, when you're thinking about, or if someone was to ask you, a graduate, Richard, what advice can you give me? And obviously we've covered quite a lot in regards to understanding foundations, knuckling down, not being afraid to pivot. But is there any other words of wisdom or career advice you would give someone when they're starting to look at their first professional journey?
I'd like to answer in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
2 years ago, we employed 2 graduates to join our marketing team. Now, they weren't STEM graduates. They came from a marketing background. They had both left university, I think, for 18 months. We were the first organisation to give them a real opportunity. Right. And we were the first organisation that trusted them. And other people wouldn't employ them because they didn't have the experience. And they couldn't get the experience because people didn't employ them. So I would have a plea to employers to give a graduate a chance. Because if you don't give them a chance, then they don't have an opportunity to get into the workplace and demonstrate what they could do. And these 2 young people were brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But somebody had to say, come and try.
Yeah.
And I think for the graduates, it's, look at the organization. The key thing to do is to get some experience that is relevant experience. So if you're an aerospace engineer, I know the aerospace industry is in a bad way at the moment. Surely some work experience with Rolls-Royce or Boeing or Airbus or what have you is going to be worth a lot more than making some money somewhere in maybe a better paid job, but outside of what you want to do. Because you need to get, once you're on the ladder, then it's down to you. But if you can't get on the ladder, then you have no choice. So you've really got to find that what is it these days, whether it's a sponsorship or whether it's an apprenticeship or whatever it is. You just have to accept, because without it, other people won't look at you.
Yeah.
And with respect to yourself and your industry, your profession, how do you judge? And you're looking for that experience. So find something that gives you experience, take the experience, and then build from there. Because if you don't, you'll never get going. Because in a year's time, you're then challenging for those jobs with people who are, unfortunately, a year younger and more knowledgeable, because they are more up to date, because you haven't been able to keep up to date. Yeah. It's a harsh thing, particularly in the current employment market, but you do need the opportunity. But industry, British industry, needs to give our graduates the opportunity to come in and do something and show that they can deliver, that they can progress. Otherwise, how will they?
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Thank you for that. I think that was really, really insightful. And as I say, there's some really good words of wisdom there for the listeners, on just how important it is to get that work experience and to stand out. And you're right, from my industry, even in today's world, you're having 400 or 500 applicants sometimes for a role, and these are not even graduate roles, super technical experience roles. So to be able to stand out is super important, and whether it's certifications to show that you've gone the extra mile, or that work experience or projects outside of work that's related to where you want to go. Like you said, when pivoting, you need to show a genuine interest in whatever that new industry sector or space might be, and that's really, really useful, because it does stand out. There's no denying that. So thank you. Well, look, that's been fantastic. So again, everybody, that's another episode of our Future Tech podcast series. A big thank you to Richard. Thank you for your time. Really, really enjoyed that. I hope you found it okay.
Yeah, thank you. Many thanks for inviting me. It's great fun.
Yeah, great.
Okay, bye, Charlie.
This is going to be posted on our YouTube channel, on Spotify, but also on the career pages of the universities that we've partnered with. So yeah, once more again, thank you to Richard, and here's to the next episode.